everything changed in a matter of seconds. Welcome to this explainer on NFL Nexus. I'm your host, and today we are pulling back the curtain on a situation that is rapidly, and I mean rapidly, boiling over in the Midwest. Now, before we really get into the weeds here, make sure you subscribe to the channel, like this explainer, and comment down below with your thoughts as we go along. And if you truly want to support the deep dives we do here, consider becoming a channel member. So, we are looking at a franchise resting entirely on a razor's edge right now. It's a team caught right between the immense, shimmering promise of tomorrow and the crushing, totally unforgiving expectations of today. This, my friends, is the Chicago pressure cooker, the 2026 Bears season. You can feel it, right? The air in Chicago is just thick. It's heavy with the weight of a historic franchise that absolutely demands greatness, yet so often finds itself completely mired in the brutal reality of the National Football League. Today, we are about to examine the immense, suffocating pressure resting squarely on the shoulders of the Chicago Bears organization this season. And we're talking top to bottom, from the general manager's suite all the way down to the players fighting for their very livelihoods on the frozen grass of Soldier Field. And honestly, looking at this situation, it forces us to ask a really profound, unsettling question. Is any job truly safe in the NFL? Take a second. Just let the reality of that sink in. The National Football League stands for not for long for a very real reason. You can literally be the savior of a franchise one day and a total cautionary tale the next. Just look at recent history. We have seen head coaches, guys like Doug Peterson, win a Super Bowl, bring the very first Lombardi trophy to a desperate, starving city, and then what? They get fired barely 3 years later because the offensive regression became just way too toxic to ignore. No matter your pedigree, no matter your draft capital, the clock is always ticking. The harsh reality of professional football is that loyalty, that's an absolute luxury, and patience is a currency that runs out way faster than anyone ever expects. For the Chicago Bears, heading into 2026, the alarm bells aren't just ringing, they are absolutely blaring. And the main reason that patience is running out so fast is 2027. Now, you might be wondering, why on earth are we talking about 2027 when the 2026 season is literally what's right in front of us? Well, because in the NFL, a player's replacement is never more than one single draft class away. The shadow of the future looms incredibly large over the present in this league. The decisions made today, they're entirely dictated by the ghosts of tomorrow. And right now, the 2027 NFL Draft is casting a massive, unavoidable shadow over the entire Chicago Bears organization. It is the specter in the room that no one can ignore, even if they want to. Because when general managers look at future draft capital, they aren't just looking at picks, right? They are looking at highly specific trade values, leverage, and ultimately, reset buttons. A 2027 first-round pick isn't just a simple selection for a front office on the hot seat, it is an organizational escape hatch. Which brings us to the single most scrutinized man in the entire city, the Iceman's ultimate test. Caleb Williams enters year 3. Caleb Williams arrived in Chicago with the absolute weight of the world on his shoulders, carrying this massive reputation of being the Iceman, cool under pressure, unflappable, nothing bothers him. But even Icemen can melt. He is now entering year 3, which is a critical make-or-break juncture where the Bears have to make their decision on his fully guaranteed 5th-year option and, potentially, a massive market-resetting contract extension. Let's look at the actual granular context of his development so far, because it tells a story. His first season, it was a complete washout. He was left out there toiling without proper tutelage, struggling heavily, and I mean heavily, with pre-snap blitz recognition. Defenses would show this disguised too-high shell, spin down into single high right at the snap, and Williams would just freeze. He'd often hold the ball for an excruciating 3.2 seconds. In the NFL, 3.2 seconds is a lifetime. Then came year 2. He had to switch offenses, which is an immediate, brutal setback for literally any young quarterback. Though, to be fair, he did manage to show a really good jump. But the mechanical flaws, they still crept in under pressure. When the pocket collapsed from the B-gap, his footwork would completely fall apart, resulting in these really dangerous throws off his back foot. And the thing is, the excuses of the past are now completely gone. Mitchell Trubisky and Justin Fields knew exactly what the Chicago pressure felt like. Now Caleb is finally in the exact same offense for a second consecutive year. The training wheels are officially off. The microscope is entirely, completely focused on him.
Okay, let's dive into this because the plot here is thickening drastically. NFL insider Albert Breer recently noted something astonishing about the league's current landscape. He said the picks have been treated like gold. What exactly is he getting at here? Well, Breer pointed out a highly unusual, almost bizarre anomaly. To date, 0 2027 first-round picks have been traded. Zero. In an era where general managers usually trade future assets like they're just plain fantasy football, I mean, just look at the massive historical hauls given up for players like Bryce Young or Trey Lance. The absolute hoarding of 2027 first-rounders right now is staggering. The entire league has simultaneously decided to lock away their future capital in a steel vault. General managers are absolutely terrified to give up their lottery tickets. And the reason for this unprecedented stinginess? It directly threatens every single thing Caleb Williams is trying to build in Chicago.
The reason they are hoarding those picks is this exact list right here. The impossibly deep 2027 quarterback class. Just listen to these names, guys. Arch Manning, Dante Moore, Julian Sain, CJ Carr, Darian Minsa, Sam Leavitt. And honestly, that's not even counting guys like Jaden Maeva, Drew Mestemaker, or Lenora Sellers. Analysts right now are projecting that an unbelievable 5 or 6 quarterbacks could be taken in the first dozen picks alone. This isn't just a deep class. This is being viewed as generational talent. Take Arch Manning, for example. NFL scouts are absolutely drooling over his cerebral pre-snap processing, which is incredibly reminiscent of his uncle's, obviously, but it's combined with this unexpected dynamic mobility outside the pocket. Or look at Dante Moore, who possesses this effortless flick-of-the-wrist deep ball accuracy that you simply cannot teach. Then you've got Julian Sain, displaying pinpoint, almost robotic mechanics that make him incredibly pro-ready right out of the gate. Now, CBS Sports' Ryan Wilson rightfully points out that what looks impossibly deep in May often turns out to be slim pickings 10 months later. But right now, the perception is absolute reality in NFL front offices. This class looks like a bumper crop. It's being hailed as potentially the best of all time. And every single time Caleb Williams steps onto the field this season and stares down a primary read or takes a totally unnecessary sack, this exact list of names will be flashing in the minds of the Chicago front office. And that front office dynamic introduces a really chilling subplot for Bears fans. It's offensive coordinator Ben Johnson versus the 2024 Matt Eberflus draft. This is the hidden, palpable tension inside the building at Hallis Hall right now. Think about it. Caleb Williams was not drafted by Ben Johnson. He was the absolute crown jewel of the Ryan Poles and Matt Eberflus regime back in 2024. Now Ben Johnson is the one running the offense. And Johnson's specific scheme relies heavily on these highly complex play-action concepts and deep crossing routes that require absolute, unwavering anticipation from the quarterback. If year 3 becomes a season of disappointment, if Caleb doesn't make that final critical stride to become the high-percentage elite processor that Johnson's demanding system requires, how much allegiance does the offensive coordinator really have to a quarterback he didn't handpick? The honest answer? Very little. Johnson could easily look at that massive 2027 quarterback pool we just dissected and see his guy, his hand-picked savior to securely tie his tenure to. The political dynamics within an NFL coaching staff are absolutely ruthless, and Williams is caught right in the crossfire. So the crucial point here is that we are looking at a stark, definitive fork in the road for the Chicago Bears franchise, the 2 paths forward. Let's trace path 1. Williams succeeds. He proves himself, completely eliminating any buyer hesitancy or remorse regarding his future mega contract. If that happens, the Bears are in an incredible prime position because that massive rush on quarterbacks in the 2027 draft, it will naturally push elite blue-chip positional talent down the board, right into Chicago's lap. Players they desperately need to make a deep playoff run. We're talking about game-wrecking edge rushers like Texas's Colin Simmons, who possesses this terrifying bend around the edge, or South Carolina's Dylan Stewart, known for his raw, unadulterated power moves. We're talking about elite blindside tackles and explosive running backs falling directly to them. But then, there's path 2. Williams struggles. He falters. And suddenly, that impossibly deep, incredibly inviting pool of 2027 quarterbacks becomes entirely too tempting for Ben Johnson in the front office to ignore. The franchise resets the rookie quarterback contract window, freeing up massive salary cap space, and hits the reset button. Again, every single snap this season carries the immense weight of these 2 wildly divergent futures. But the pressure isn't just on the offense. While the cameras and the headlines remain intensely fixated on Caleb Williams and the quarterback controversy brewing in the shadows, a completely different, equally intense drama is unfolding on the other side of the ball. The Chicago defense, long a source of immense pride and bone-crushing identity for this historic city, has its own massive expectations to fulfill. We all know the legacy of the monsters of the Midway, and at the center of it all this year is a rookie carrying an almost impossible burden. Let me introduce you to the number 25. With the 25th overall pick in the 2026 NFL Draft, the Chicago Bears selected safety Dylan Thieneman out of Oregon. Now, in a rabid football city like Chicago, a first-round defensive pick isn't just expected to contribute. They are expected to completely dominate. They're expected to be the next terrifying link in a legendary chain of defensive greats. So why did the Bears invest such premium draft capital at number 25? Well, the scouting report on Thieneman is virtually flawless. He ran a blistering 4.38 40-yard dash at the combine. But it's not just straight-line speed. It's his fluid hips in transition and his staggering sideline-to-sideline range while playing single-high safety that made him such a coveted asset. His innate ability to read the quarterback's eyes and zone coverage is already functioning at a veteran level. The Bears front office firmly believes they landed an absolute stud in Thieneman, a player poised to be an immediate, game-altering difference maker. But difference maker might not be enough to satisfy the deep historical hunger in Chicago. Because for a player drafted in the first round, the bar is set at the absolute pinnacle, the AP Defensive Rookie of the Year. This is the ultimate, crowning personal goal for a first-year defensive player in the National Football League. Now, let's be explicitly clear about something. Dylan Thieneman has Pro Bowl and potentially even All-Pro potential over the course of his career. Defensive coordinator Dennis Allen has a versatile scheme that is perfectly tailored to use Thieneman's unique skill set. He projects to be an instant, high-level starter. But securing the Defensive Rookie of the Year award, that requires something way more than just playing perfectly sound football. The voters for this award historically lean heavily toward edge rushers with double-digit sacks or flashy shutdown cornerbacks. It requires capturing the entire national narrative. It requires doing something so statistically spectacular that the voters simply cannot look away. And unfortunately for Thieneman, history is fiercely, unapologetically working against him. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the sheer scale of the historical curse we are dealing with. It is staggering. Listen to this observation from ESPN's Ben Solak regarding his favorites for the award. He said, "A safety has not won Defensive Rookie of the Year this century. They simply aren't around the ball enough." Solak was actually talking about Caleb Downs of the Dallas Cowboys at the time. He noted that despite Downs being a spectacular, game-changing player, he had to completely cut him from the favorites list purely because of the harsh reality of history. The exact same brutal logic applies to Dylan Thieneman. You see, safeties are often the cleanup crew of a defense. If they are doing their job perfectly, meaning completely erasing the deep third of the field, quarterbacks simply won't target them. They just won't throw it their way. That leads to a beautiful, dominant defensive performance, but absolutely zero box score stats. The national media, the voters, the analysts, they have systematically programmed themselves to ignore safeties when it comes to this award. You can be spectacular. You can be the absolute linchpin of the unit. But if you play safety, the institutional bias says you simply do not impact the game enough to win the ultimate rookie prize. Let's actually trace the timeline of this positional drought, what we can really only call the safety curse. You have to travel all the way back to 1990 to find the last time a safety took home this award. And poetically, almost fittingly, it happened right here in Chicago. The Bears' Mark Carrier won Defensive Rookie of the Year in 1990, literally beating out absolute legends of the game like Junior Seau. But since then, think about this. From the year 2000 all the way through 2025, exactly 0 safeties have won the award in the 21st century. Not one. It is a 35-year gap, a massive gaping chasm of totally unacknowledged greatness at the position. And now, in 2026, Dylan Thieneman steps onto the field, attempting to shatter a trend that has stood firm since before he was even born. And this brilliantly illustrates exactly why the drought exists and the monumental, almost vertical wall Thieneman has to climb. We call this the mountaintop versus the uphill climb. Look at what Mark Carrier had to do in 1990 to win this award. It is genuinely absurd. Carrier recorded a league-high 10 interceptions. 10! He had a league-high 5 forced fumbles, and he racked up 122 tackles. He was a Pro Bowler and a second-team All-Pro as a rookie. Keep in mind, passing games in 1990 were fundamentally different, making 10 interceptions in today's highly efficient passing era near mythical. That is the mountaintop. That is the extreme statistical anomaly required for a safety to actually force the voters' hands. Now contrast that with Dylan Thieneman. Over his entire incredibly successful college career, Thieneman recorded a total of 3 interceptions and 2 forced fumbles. Just last season, we saw Seahawks rookie Nick Emanawari put up 81 tackles, 2.5 sacks, and 11 pass deflections. But because he only had 1 single interception, he barely received any first-place votes at all. If Thieneman wants this award, playing sound defense isn't enough. He has to completely reinvent his statistical output. So let's break down how Thieneman can actually build a path to breaking this curse. How does he achieve the impossible here? First and foremost, he must generate massive takeaways. Tackles won't do it. Pass deflections won't do it. He literally needs the football in his hands. Second, he has to completely capitalize on defensive coordinator Dennis Allen's specific scheme. Allen loves to utilize disguised cover 3 and incredibly aggressive press man coverage on the outside. By forcing opposing wide receivers to really struggle off the line of scrimmage, it forces quarterbacks to hold the ball just a half-second longer, creating rushed, desperate throws over the middle of the field directly into Thieneman's territory. And guess what? Last year, this exact Chicago scheme led the entire NFL in takeaways. The opportunities will absolutely be there. Third, look at the shoes he is filling. He is stepping in to help replace Kevin Byard III, who led the NFL with 7 interceptions last season. The standard in that defensive backroom is sky high. And finally, Thieneman must weaponize his violent nature, particularly in the massive primetime games the Bears will undoubtedly be playing in. He needs signature moments on national television, a forced fumble in the fourth quarter against the Packers, a game-sealing interception against the Lions. He needs visceral, completely unforgettable highlights that transcend the stat sheet.
Which brings us right back to the brutal, inescapable truth of the matter. The 2026 season will forge Chicago legends, or it will trigger total structural rebuilds. There is no middle ground left in the Windy City. The margins for error have completely evaporated into the freezing Lake Michigan air. On offense, Caleb Williams is fighting not just highly complex opposing defenses, but the ticking clock of his contract, his own mechanical demons, and a historic 2027 draft class waiting in the wings to seamlessly replace him. On defense, Dylan Thieneman is fighting a 35-year historical curse, tasked with living up to the terrifying ghosts of Chicago's past while carrying the immense expectations of a first-round pick. The pressure inside Hallis Hall is suffocating. The stakes could not possibly be any higher. It is a cinematic drama unfolding in real time on the gridiron.
And so, as the stadium lights go down and the season finally kicks off, we are left with one final, lingering thought. Will the intense, unbearable pressure forge diamonds, or will it completely break the Bears? Can Caleb Williams finally unlock his generational potential, fix his pocket presence, and become the definitive face of the franchise, allowing Chicago to build a roster juggernaut around him? Can Dylan Thieneman navigate an aggressive defensive scheme well enough to shatter a statistical curse that has stood for over 3 decades? Or will the sheer crushing weight of these historical expectations cause the entire foundation to fracture, forcing yet another painful tear-it-down rebuild? We are about to find out. Thank you for joining me for this explainer on NFL Nexus. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, drop a like on this explainer, and comment your predictions down below. And hey, become a channel member to support more deep dives like this. Until next time, keep your eyes on the gridiron.